resolution?
Certainly, certainly. Let's wait till we get, I'll go ahead from Karen and then we can go ahead and go.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Is anyone taking notes from this meeting that we can utilize, or should I take some notes just as we go through these weeklies? Or I'm not sure if there's a record of it and having to rewatch it.
I would recommend, if you're wanting detailed notes, to take your own detailed notes. The notes that the clerk's required to have are not required to be verbatim.
Oh, I can't type that fast. It won't be verbatim. If I'm typing, I'm probably taking just a couple little follow-up notes for ourselves internally. Thank you.
We do have audio recordings and the YouTube feed for backup. So.
Great, thank you.
All right, Madam Vice Chair, we're ready to go when you are.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting officially to order. According to my iPhone, it's 10:47. I don't know what it's officially at the City Hall there. Go ahead, Mary Ann. I'd like for you at least the thing that I knew that was in our packet was the resolution. Karen?
Madam Vice Chair, I did have a comment that was requested to be read. It is a work session, so we can do it at any time that you want. But if you want to do it at the beginning,
why don't you go ahead and do it? Let's go ahead and do it now, because sometimes at the end we run out of time.
Okay. So a comment was submitted. Do we have 3 people on here? Okay, I can't see. All right. So a comment was submitted by email by Mary Kalstad. And she requested this to be read into record. Hotel Seward. Ms. Jean's Place is requesting to be included in the historic signage grant. Dear Council, I believe she also meant Commission, we all appreciate your time and efforts. This is Mary Kalstad from the Hotel Seward, Ms. Jean's Place, 217 through 221 5th Avenue. Hope this finds you all well. I am sorry we have missed notices to be included in this grant. We have been short-staffed and I have been away. As Hotel Seward is a memorable part of Seward's history, I am requesting Hotel Seward be added to the list for the signage grant. I have also emailed the Historic Society requesting any information I need to have my request processed and accepted. I am appreciative of your assistance in adding Hotel Seward and approving my request. Wishing all a blessed day, Mary Kalstad.
Thank you, Mary, at Hotel Seward. Mary Ann, I think she'd already contacted you, so that is in process. So anybody watching, it is in process. And thank you very much for your input, Mary. Okay, anything else?
I do not see any other attendees that have their hand raised. So there's no further comments at this time.
Super. Okay, Mary Ann, would you like to just at least start with the resolution as that's what's in our packet?
Well, I can start with the resolution, but you'll understand the resolution better if I start with the kind of backup material, if that's okay. Okay, so since our last meeting, we've had several new property owners that have asked to be included, including Box, Generations, yesterday, Hotel Seward, and then there's some others I cannot remember offhand. So all of those have been added to our list and scored and ranked. We also had some recommendations by Commissioner Ward and myself regarding a couple of properties. One recommendation by Sue Ward was that if, for example, property owner has several properties and they might be close by, like a property owner has a couple on 2nd Avenue, instead of giving somebody 2 signs where somebody else nearby might not get one yet, we decided to, if they have a couple of properties, to take one and move them to round 2. And by round 2, I mean we're going to ask for a second grant to take care of all the people that would like a sign that we don't have enough funding for in this first round. Also, I recommend that we move Woodlawn Cemetery to round 2 just because of all its, it's basically above our expected funding line. It was the only property above the line that's not within walking distance of all the rest. So spatially it seemed to quite fit. So I recommend that we move that to round 2. Based on that, I created a list of ranked properties, assuming you guys would be okay with those couple things I just mentioned, and put together a ranked list, which was what developed the resolution for us to vote on at our regular meeting, and so we can review that here. There was one thing that I have to do to make this work. We are assuming our funding line is about 25 signs. So, counting down the list after things are ranked to about 25, of course, right at the funding line, there were 6 properties that all had exactly the same score. So we had to have a way of deciding which one would go above the funding line and which ones would be below. So I took the liberty to kind of do some sub-rankings. And you can see in the list how I rank those things. The main thing that I wanted to do was to have the library and museum be above the funding line. So I gave that the highest rank of those 6, and the reason is because that's the start of our tour. That's where people are going to get maps. They're one of our partners, and it seemed very important to have them be above the funding line. The other ones I just looked at based on how old they were, if they were significant in Seward's history, if the people that lived there were well known, etc. Some of the same types of ideas that we use for the other ranking criteria, I put them in order. So I guess the basic thing for you to look at is if you're okay with that, and what that did was put the library above the funding line as the number 1, which is the key thing that matters. Okay, so then you can see how everything ranks out. You can see where the funding line is. And based on that, we kind of have the work spread out. And I have a list here of the different people, how many signs that they have. And my hope is that we could spread this out a little bit better. And since Fred is here, maybe Fred could take some things on. Go ahead, please.
Mary Ann, in reviewing the list, I just wanted to let you know, I think we had talked, I talked at length with Dorothy Urbach, and they do not want a sign.
They don't want a sign.
They do not. She's happy to be included in the addendum if there's like the map and a booklet of properties, but she was concerned, and we can still talk about it. There's no real place on her building for a sign. I stood out front with her and we looked at it, and that was her primary concern, although in the addendum she was real pleased for us to talk about the Urbach family and how long they've been here in the business. She's happy to participate. She just didn't see a reasonable place where it would sit on her building, so she was happy to not have a sign.
Okay,
if that gets somebody else above the funding.
Right. The next thing below the funding line would be Kawabi Park, which is city property. One of the reasons we have that on there is because we thought there's lots of old photos that show Seward, like back from 1905 and different years, that you can find looking down the street or looking up the street. So we were thinking that might be a good place to have a sign to talk about the whole 4th Avenue business district and some of that history. So that would probably be the next one. And just so you know, the next one down was also city property. It was Mount Marathon. wanted to have something about 4th of July celebration, which also goes way back in time. And I was talking to the city folks, the city manager yesterday. On our list, we have a sign location for Mount Marathon, like the race, which we had considered having up on Mount Marathon near where their existing signs are. And we had also have above the funding line a sign for the diversion dam, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. When I talked to the city manager and Jackie yesterday, they had some concern about having a sign up there at the diversion dam for safety's sake. So we talked about, well, maybe we can have the sign either separately or combined with the Mount Marathon sign and just put it down there where the current signs are. So if we were to do that, it's possible that this is already a spot for the sign above the funding line of the diversion dam. Maybe we could combine those two things and put them where the current signs are, which would open it up for another person. So that's just something to think about if you feel like you have enough material to have two signs, or if we could get by with one.
Fred?
Yeah, I have.
Fred?
Yeah, I have two comments. The first one is, I don't, maybe it's on here, but by address, but I don't see Fort Raymond on here. And the other comment is the old DOT shop and building at the bottom of, actually the north end of Fifth Avenue. That is an old pictures way back when the town was just starting. That building is very historic. We've worked on both of those in the past with the commission, and so I just wondered if they were going to get on the list somehow or already are. And the other comment is there a policy or some method for the B list, the second list, of people getting on it still if they want to get on it for future consideration if we get another grant? And that's it.
So basically anybody who is interested can get on the next list. And I can just add that. I need some more details. I'm not sure exactly where you said that was on Fifth Avenue.
It's at the very
But
end. If you go the north end of Fifth Avenue, you run right into the DOT shop, and where they have the gravel pile, the salted sand for the road, and then just to the left, there's a very old building that's got plywood over the old windows and stuff. But that's very historic in this town. It's one of the few buildings that are left from way back. 19.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll touch bases with you later for more details, but I can just add that to the list. Just so you know, the B list already has like 15 people, so we have plenty of people for our next round of funding. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I put it on the list, I score it out, and so they get ranked. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on, and then I'll let you talk, Congi, or Commissioner LeBret. Fred, what we've done, anybody can be, like Mary Ann said, anybody can be on the list. We also have a ranking system, which she could probably send you, so that we had real clean criteria for properties, why properties were positioned the way they were positioned. But yeah, all of those properties could be added. We'll put them through the ranking system, see where they fall out. And if they fall in certain places, then they get funding first. Otherwise, every property will be put on an addendum. So even if you're on a list and you don't get the sign, you don't qualify based on the ranking system, you will be in the tour.
Well, I think
so
I have
properties that you feel, any properties you feel we've left out, please be sure you get those to Mary Ann.
I don't feel left out, and I think I have the ranking system here. Those are a couple sites that I thought were pretty important that we had worked on in the past a lot. So
right.
I just brought it up.
And I'm kind of stating that publicly so that anybody watching can also add to the list. If there's something we've missed, and we've got folks out there who, like you, recognize that things got left off the list, please let us know. That's the main thing. Okay, Commissioner LeBret, did you have something?
I was going to say something, two things. One, Commissioner Walkers, thank you for bringing up that old building. I look past it every day, every time that I drive past it, and I think it'd be a shame if that building ever came down. And it also has like the most coolest looking old wood that you can ever imagine. There's not lots of buildings like that. But second of all, I was actually going to echo exactly what what Vice Chair Ward said, which was that we're getting lots of people that are interested. Even just now, at the beginning of this call, I got yet another interested call from somebody else who wants to be part of this. Some people are just saying, I just want to be part of the walking tour. And that's okay. So they could be future consideration for signage or not at all. We need to continue to clarify that as we point system it and so on. There are some people who just want to be on the tour and they aren't necessarily wanting a sign, but there's so much interest in just being on the tour. And then the B list as well too. So I appreciate that we have the ranking system so that we can make it clear to people how we're making our funding decisions for this gaining leg. Thank you.
Cheryl, Commissioner Lateef.
So I got a call from another homeowner in O'Connor, and they're interested, and they're okay with both the sign and being on the walking tour, and I just wanted to echo what Commissioner LeBret just said, which was, even though we aren't able to fund and plant the signs this round, these properties can certainly go onto the walking tour pamphlet.
Chair Steve, I received that same call as the call that I received at the beginning of this meeting. I was trying to navigate both. I let him know that one would call him back following this meeting. So thank you for that.
Okay, should I proceed?
I was going to say, go ahead, Marianne. I was trying to unmute. Go ahead.
So, I have some things that I want to review and get your okay on, but before we get there, let me just finish telling you the background here. Yesterday, I talked to the Stewart Community Library Association, and they accepted our partnership invitation, and I spent some time talking to Mary Tugis on the phone about the process for getting photos for our, how we can fit it into our timeline to make sure that we get the photos we need to be able to get the signs done on time. And I'll tell you some more about that in a second. I have created a spreadsheet that basically has our photo needs. So as you're working on stuff and you're like, okay, well, I know I want this photo or I want that photo. If you're finding them online, like at the Stewart Community Library Association, you can look through these archives online. And there's photo ID numbers. So basically, the best thing is, capture description of what that photo is, the ID number, etc., and fill in the spreadsheet, because when it comes time to getting photos, I'm going to have to take all the stuff that you guys want and submit it on one of their forms, whether it's the Library Association or Resurrection Bay Historical Society. I'll put it all together, submit it. So it's just me going, please, can we have all this stuff, rather than all of us asking them for things.
Pestering them, yes.
Yeah, so basically, I just wanted to make you aware, I have the spreadsheet. If you're not sure where it is, I'll send you a link. And the other thing that's important is that I'm going to go over our timeline here in a minute, but in talking to Mary, and to meet the timeline to give everything to the sign designer so that we can meet our deadline, I need to give her all the photo requests by March 5th, which means like 2 days before that, say like the 3rd, you guys need to get it to me so I can kind of organize it and get it ready to talk to her. So I know that's like in a month. I know it's quick. But the thing is, if we don't do that, we can spend more time and get our sign narratives together and send all the stuff, and then we'll be on hold trying to get our photos before we can send it to the sign designer. So this is just so we know this is what we have to do if we want to meet our timeline. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Toggy has put together a timeline, which I've included in the packet, and the key things signs are basically like March 3rd, getting your photos, and then basically get all your stuff, your signs to me by March 21st. But then by the 31st, we have to give all the stuff to the sign designer so we can extend. And so the bottom line with all of that is just some review or okay from you guys. Like, are you okay with the fact that you recommended moving those properties, that a property owner had two, and moving one of them to round two? And are you okay with the fact that I moved Woodlawn Cemetery to round two? And that's what the draft resolution was based on, which at this point we know we can take Urbox off of there, and then I can add the next one on the list, which was Wabi Park. So we need to review the resolution. Actually, the resolution instead of just showing 25 properties, I put 30. Because we really don't know where the funding line is going to be exactly. It's not like the signs are based on a flat rate. It's all about design time. So maybe we'll get more, maybe we'll get less. We'll just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. The more work we do, the better we do. The less the sign designer does, the cheaper the signs. So I wanted to, first of all, make sure you guys are okay with the adjustments, make sure you guys are okay with the resolution, and then make sure people can meet the timeline, and then take a look at these assignments and see if, since Fred is here, if we can spread this out and give Fred, you know, some of these to work with us on, and kind of make things a little more balanced. So that's
Fred,
what I'm about.
Fred, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I agree with you. If an owner has two properties, that one should go on the B list, but there might be, I don't know of one, but there might be a way to make an exception if the two properties are very historic and very important to us. Maybe we can have like a consensus of the board or something if there's going to be a second one. Just so we don't leave something really important off just because there's two. But basically, I agree with you.
Agree with it.
Pardon?
Mary Ann?
I think of all the properties that are on there, there wasn't too many property owners that had two. I know Deborah Hoffmeister had two, and one of them, the Quonset huts, are above the funding line, but her other property on First Avenue was below the funding line, so I wasn't worried about her because it was below the line anyway. Besides those couple of folks that you mentioned too on Second Avenue,
I think both the houses.
Anybody else?
Yeah, both of those properties, I believe, were, you know, when we assessed them via the system, they were kind of the same. We don't have a lot of information on either one of the properties, but I think Fred has a real valid point. So I don't know in terms of the process what we need to do with that, but I think at some point it needs to be a judgment call based on, you know, and like Woodland Cemetery, that's a great place, but it's way out. So we just have to make that decision. There's no other way to do it.
The other ones that were the ones we moved were kind of very similar in score, so it wasn't like they all ranked up really high and we took one away. It was more like they were down lower and they were about the same. So.
But I think Commissioner Wolker's caveat or addition is really valid. So we can make those final decisions on multiple owners with multiple properties, but we have to be able to justify it. Commissioner Steve.
Yes, thank you. An example would be Rissy Casagandra. She had a request for two, and that would be a situation where I think we would weigh things and probably deal with one at a time in order that others that had a higher priority could be above the second property. And as far as my input on the resolution, I'm okay with Commissioner Benoit's decision to move up Woodlawn and then to move up see, Colby, and I support the resolution, but we cannot vote on it, of course, until the regular meeting.
Right, no, we're getting ready for the regular meeting, I think, Commissioner Cease.
Thank you.
So is there a process? The resolution has been written, and these are changes. Clerk Corrigan, what's the process? Can we amend it at the regular meeting before we take the vote?
Changes can be suggested now on, like, if you're going to reorder the list, and further changes can be, amendments can be requested during the meeting when discussion comes up for this to approve the resolution also. So
Okay.
one recommendation I am going to make is Clerk Ballou pointed out that the sponsor for the resolution should not be the commission on this one. When it goes to council, it'll be that if you choose to have this go to council, this doesn't have to go to council, and it's not written to do that. But the sponsor should be a person, so I would recommend Commissioner Benoit, since you wrote up the bulk of this.
She's the committee chair for that particular committee, so I think that's appropriate, Mary. Commissioner Benoit, that would be appropriate. Karen, is that what I was going to suggest?
It's at the very top of the
Commissioner Benoit,
page.
is maybe what you do is, are you comfortable with maybe some of the recommendations and changes we've made at this work session? Then if you could rewrite that so that it's up to date with what we've discussed, and then make the changes as recommended by the city clerk, then that'll be ready for vote at our regular meeting. Are you comfortable with that? It's a few changes, but I think we'll be okay.
It's fine. It sounds like all I need to do is take a box off, and then the rest of the list stays the same, because there's more than 25. And then let's figure out who the sponsor is and change that to me.
And
Right.
the other recommendation I have, if you don't mind me adding, Clerk Ballou also recommended that the points criteria, if it is going to be listed, to have it listed in points highest to lowest. So it's easier to read when somebody goes to research. So just a reordering of that, so it's highest to lowest.
Gotcha.
Okay, Mariette, Commissioner Benoit, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you talked about maybe reorganizing some of the properties. That was the last thing I thought you wanted to talk about. Then we'll move to the timeline.
Yeah, I was going to see if Fred is here with us, if he would be willing to take on some, if anyone wants to give up some, to kind of spread the load a little bit. Like, I would not mind giving the Keating house to someone, just because I haven't really done any work on that one yet, other than just have one email conversation with them to find out that they don't know much, and I have done some research and I haven't found much, so I'm not very far along with that one. We'd love to pass that on to somebody who's in a good spot to give it up.
Mary Ann, you're dropping out a little
If
bit.
any,
I was checking to see if Fred would be willing to take on some properties, and one that I would love to give up or give to him would be the Keating house. And I'm also doing some work on the Quonset huts on 6th Avenue, which ties into military history, so I wasn't sure if that was an interest of yours, Fred. Maybe I could have you help me on a couple things. And I thought I'd see if anyone else would like to see if Fred was available to take on your property, if he's willing.
I was just gonna say, all the ones I have, I'm already working on. I may need help with photos, but I'm pretty much in contact with all the owners, so I'm happy to keep what I have. But if anybody else is having some difficulty, again, pass one or two to you, Fred, so that you can do some of the research. We're just looking for information about the property and trying to locate photos.
Well, it also includes developing the sign narrative,
Well,
obviously,
yeah,
and creating. Yeah.
Fred? Commissioner
Yeah.
Wilkers?
Yeah, you want me to look up the Quonsets on 6th Avenue? What was the first place that you mentioned before that?
Actually, I've already done a bunch of work on the Quonset, so we can talk, and I can tell you the information that I'd like for you to look for, if
Well-
possible. The first place that's the one I really could use some help with is the Keating House, which
It's on the second page.
Keating, which is it is at 308 6th Avenue,
Yeah, I'm good with this.
1920
And
house.
I can probably do 2 or 3 more from any of the other commissioners that want help.
I'd like to backtrack. I've been working with Randy Smith on 208 Brownell at Homebrew Alley. Now, I've got some information, but very little. So I think if two of us are looking for information on 208 Brownell, Homebrew Alley, then we may find something. In talking to the owner, he had very little information, but I think the house has been there for quite some time. So that's probably the one that I have the least amount of information on of the properties that I have been assigned. So if you could help with that one, Commissioner Wilkers, I would really, I'll continue to look. But if you could help with that one, that would be great.
Any others?
Yeah, I could actually, I'm working on the Tides Inn, which is on 3rd Avenue, kind of across the street from the Highliner. I'm working with the property owner already, and we're just kind of struggling finding out information. There's a bunch of rumors and stuff that place was moved from Fort Raymond, but I'm not sure if that's really true. And that officers used to stay there, and it used to be an officers club, and a whole bunch of stuff related to military history, but I'm not sure if any of it's true. The owners haven't really found that, and so I could use a little help researching that place if you.
I know the family, so I'll check it out.
Making the assumption you're interested in military history for some reason. I'm not sure if that's true. That's why I keep bringing those things up to you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wilkers.
Yeah, I know the family there, so I'll find out what I can about that.
Super, thanks. Thanks. Anything else, Marianne? Commissioner Benoit.
One thing that I wanted to just kind of check on is have people kind of review the timeline and make sure that you're aware of what needs to happen and you're okay, because if you're taking on these properties, we have to be able to meet that, to be able to make this happen. So, just wanted to see if anyone had any issues with that.
Marianne, Commissioner LeBrecq, do you have a timeline, or I know you've been working on it, do you have anything to present?
I have to see if I can, in fact, share my screen on that. I certainly can try.
I can do that,
Commissioner
LeBrecq.
Okay.
What's that?
Commissioner LeBrecq has put together a grant timeline so that we know when things are due. Commissioner Benoit actually added to that today, but I think it's important that we understand what our end date is so that we can get it done in a timely manner.
Yeah, sorry, I submitted this with the timeline for our meeting materials, but I guess it didn't come through in just last week. With the timeline for our meeting materials, but I guess it didn't come through in just last week.
Oh, there.
It
I'm
did.
happy to speak to it if you would like.
Yes, could you go ahead and do that, sir?
Absolutely. So, putting together a timeline. The timeline is based to begin with the grant and the start and end date to that grant, how we're going along with that. I'll start off by saying, obviously, what we're doing right now is research and collaboration with property owners. That is by all commissioners right now. The property load to be shared amongst commissioners is the conversation that we're having right now, because as we do up to 25 signs and or take input from people wishing just to be on the walking tour, even this round, perhaps without a sign, right? It's a lot of work, so making sure that we're sharing that load, that's an ongoing thing as we change and modify that. Finalizing the priority list is what we're doing right now as an ongoing basis. Our first actual dated deadline, we started meetings a couple weeks ago from our weekly meetings to do what we're doing today. On January 22nd, we had that first weekly work session, which they're all weekly notice. They're every Friday at 10:45 to 11:45. We are working on a standing agenda by committee that we'll start using likely starting next week to kind of make these meetings flow as they should and could. On the 11th of this month is our upcoming actual HP meeting, where we'll be voting and finalizing the list that's above the funding line, which is the conversation we're having today, but the actual vote, as you mentioned, Chair Cease, will need to happen on the 11th. I will also, for that meeting, have a letter put together, which will be a letter that would go out to those above the funding line on what the process is for continuing on with them being included not only in the walking tour, but getting a sign. Mary Ann will help me with some... I'm sorry? Mary Ann will help me with some wording and so on as it relates to that letter for the signage information she's gotten for sign permits from Andy Bacon. And we'll also have some general information about the agreement that you're making, if you will, as you're agreeing to have a sign. In other words, not taking it down 6 months from now kind of thing, or 6 months after implementation. On February 18th, which is the following week, by February 18th, I will send those letters out to let people know that they're above the funding line and the qualifications that are necessary to continue along the project within their home property. On the 28th of 2021, February, that is a date that I've spoken to Ms. Kingsland, and she has agreed to have a report to the state on our progress on the grant. So she'll be taking the hours that, again, please remember to log your hours every month. And she'll be taking those hours as well as a summary we'll work on together to send to Judith Bittner at the state to let her know the progress of our ongoing grant. That'll be 28th February. Additionally, on the 3rd of March, which comes up shortly after that, so we're talking just about a month away, as Commissioner Benoit mentioned, all photo requests will begin to Commissioner Benoit so that we can get those into the proper format. I did make a note on all these things, and I said I cannot guarantee signs will not complete if photos and or any narratives are not complete by that date. That's not an intent to be, or to get the pictures in, it's not an intent to be draconian. It's just that we do need to realize that as you, as a commissioner, myself included, accept work on XYZ properties, that's 4 properties, 5 properties, or 6 properties, or whatever it is, you are individually responsible for those making it to the finish line. So if you don't have the photos or if you don't have the narrative by the timeline, you know, that is going to be something that's incumbent upon us individually. There is, as we always say in a collaborative way, we are doing this, but we are doing this project, but I am responsible for my properties and getting the information to Marianne. So it's important that we acknowledge that. Additionally, then the sign creation will happen about starting March 21st. And so initial and edits with Mary Ann, be reviewed with Resurrection Bay Historical Society, Mr. Doug Capra, Mr. Lee Gillespie potentially. Again, that's all moving towards getting the information complete in the written format and to the sign company. All materials need to be sent to the sign company by March 31st. They're Corvus designed to develop signs. The quote-unquote drop-dead date for a small portion, if we were behind or had some revisions, would be April 7th. They need to get there in that time in order for us to get the signs produced. Moving on from that, once we send those signs off to Corvus Designs electronically, and again, keeping in mind that the least amount of times that we have conversations with them and do back and forth, the least money it will cost, the less money it will cost, the more signs we can do. The materials will be received to Corvus Designs by March 31st. By April 21st, which is approximately 3 weeks later, they will provide all artwork to a company called iZone, which has been found to be not only the quickest to get signs back, but also the most cost efficient. And they will do pre-production and fabrication that will be sent by Peter Briggs to Corvus Designs at our sign company. They anticipate it will take 4 weeks to complete the manufacturing of sign, which is a pretty good time, and that they will ship around May 21. Those would then come to us sometime imminently about 10 days later by June 1st. Sign installation, if we gave it 2 weeks, would be complete by around June 15th, and I picked a Saturday, June 26th for ribbon cutting. All conversations we can have, and this timeline can be moved as we go along. On June 30th, the grant officially ends. By July 31st, the grant report will be due. So that is our basic timeline. We're going to try not to move too much off of that. We'll add things to it as they pop up, but that is our general timeline for completing the project. It does not include what will be done in the other committees. They have a committee that will do social media outreach, marketing, and so on, that will need to happen. Those public notes going on. We'll have a volunteer committee. We'll talk about that at a future meeting and committee assignments, probably at the actual meeting next week. And we'll be doing volunteer recruitment for whatever we need on there, and then some of the other committees as well pulled together. So this does not include committee work right now. We're simply on sign design and creation. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Breck. I just have a question. For all of the people below the funding line, can we send a letter out just letting them know that they can be moved to a round 2 list so that they have, contact from us and information?
Certainly. Certainly. I can add that to the actual timeline right here that I'm in now. So.
I will leave to you, Commissioner, but I'd just like to add, Chair Cease, I think when we've approached most of the property owners, we've sort of indicated that. So they understand, depending on the funding, they might not get a sign, but we have encouraged and told all of them that they will be included on the walking tour in the addendum. So I think we've already done that. We just need to do it in an official manner once we've taken the vote.
I have a question on adding them to the official walking tour. We have, the information we're researching right now on all these properties. And in order to add them to the walking tour, that would mean we have to also research those properties and have that information. So I wonder if it wouldn't be prudent to send out a letter just stating that they will be on step 2 and leave it at that for now. So they're not wondering, and we've got time.
Chair Cease, I believe that was the plan. Anyone else have questions or comments?
I have a comment, this is Commissioner Benoit. I just think, yeah, if we let people know in the letter that they're going to be on round 2, it gives them, the goal would be give them an opportunity where they can start researching what they have for their own property. So in the meantime, they're collecting, rounding up all that information. So when we do get the second round of funding, we are ready to go. Because they've given us as much as they have, so we know what else we still need to find. That will just be that much more ahead of the game if we can have them working on those things while waiting for funding for a sign around 2. But I think to have people, like you say, be on the walking tour, even if they don't have a sign yet, we need to have some basics, like, the address, the date of the house, some little thing about it that at least can be added for now, and that could be fleshed out more later on as we get into that.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, I'm not sure if there's anything else we need to do at this particular meeting. We've got the list and the resolution ready for a vote. Mary Ann will update that. Commissioner LeBrecq has, the timeline. We have spread the load a little bit. Most of mine are already in progress, so people are getting back to me. It's already being written. Any other comments? Anything else we need to address? Mary, Commissioner Benoit.
Yeah, I was just, I appreciate Fred helping us with some of our properties. I just wanted to ask Fred, what's the best way to work with you on this? Like call you by phone or by email? Just wanted to check in on the best way to communicate with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, email and phone. But I look at my email pretty much every day. And then if I see something from you and you want me to call back, I'll call back.
Okay. Super. All right, thank you.
Clerk Corrigan?
Oh, I was gonna let Chair go first.
Okay.
Mr. Walkers, what is your email?
Day Harbor Ranch, all one word, all small, @gmail.com.
Thank you.
All right. Clerk Corrigan?
I just wanted to, before we close out the meeting, I got responses from a couple of you. I just want to confirm if March 8th at 6:15 is a date that's good for everyone to do the joint work session with City Council.
You got my response. I'm pretty available, whatever works for everybody else.
Me too.
Me too.
I am not available. I teach classes on Monday night.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's
not
it's-
available for either of those dates.
Yeah, that's understandable. Unfortunately,
I believe that
that's what council's gonna do.
although I would love for Commissioner Benoit to be there, that she has put in more than her share of time on lots of things, and I suspect we could probably report the work that you've done,
Yeah, for sure.
since you can't really change city council night. Or we would.
Okay, so I'll advise Clerk Ballou that March 8th at 6:15 will work for Historic Preservation Commission.
Clerk Kerrigan, do we have to have a quorum of our own?
I believe
For the
so, but with the responses I've had, and Fred, you'll be able to make that.
March 8th?
March 8th at 6:15 for City Council work
At this
session.
point, yes.
Yes. So you should have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anything else? I would just like to remind everybody, list your hours. I've been listing out my hours. That's not the form I will be sending to Ms. Kingsland. But we need to get our hours for January into her.
And
Clerk Corrigan?
I just wanted to remind everybody, thank you for reminding me, don't forget these work session meetings every week, those count. Add those to your hours. That's all I have.
Yep, mine's already in.
Yep. I'm just waiting for my form. Anything else? Anything else for this meeting? Chair Steve?
I would like to thank Commissioner Benoit for all of her hours and excellent work. Commissioner Lebrecht for his hours and excellent work. Commissioner Ward, Vice Chair Ward, for conducting an awesome meeting. And Commissioner Wolkers for taking on some of these properties. And I'm just so excited because Fred knows a lot about Seward history. So, yahoo! Oh, and I thank you, Clerk Corrigan, for all your help and support.
Any other comments?
And I apologize for being late. I am still suffering technical difficulties.
Mary Ann? Commissioner Benoit?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for all your hard work, helping to make this happen. I realize it's a lot, but I feel like once we get these signs done and out there, they're pretty much maintenance-free. I feel like they're going to be out there for a long time, providing joy to people in education, both that live here and visitors. So I think it's going to be a great thing to help promote love of history and historic preservation in our community. So I think that it's all going to be worth it, and I appreciate everyone working so hard on it. I also just want to say, Fred, since you are a great historian, just make a list of all the things you think should be on the list that we forgot, and just email it to me, and I'll make sure they all get on there.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Anything else? I would personally like to thank Seward, the citizens in Seward. I think the response that we have had all over the town has just been amazing. I think we were very surprised at how many people are interested in Seward history and the properties they own. And if we can just make that happen, we've got partners in the citizens of Seward. So thank you, Seward. Anything else? All right, anything else? No? Okay, I'd like to gavel this meeting closed. I don't have a time official.
I have 11:40.
11:40.
10:40, or 11:40. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.